Magu Sho, divine marijuana brings immortality. So, okay, I want to show my big because it's daybreak and I'm still in bed. Okay, let me think for a minute. Why did I do this? Why did I start this video? Oh, I remember. See, you're not supposed to remember anything when you've been smoking marijuana for 50 plus years. So, now I be joking a lot, and a lot of my joking is aimed at my older appearance because it is actually a trip. Getting older. Period. But in some circumstances, geez, my words are splurged. My words are slurred. Anyway, it's just a trip getting older. But in my personal mentality, it's it's kind of more of a trip, I guess. I don't know anybody else's mentality, so I don't know how it's more or less. But anyway, in my mind, it's like really a trip because in my younger days, I was the youngest. And then when I was 10, then my father had a younger sister. So then she became the youngest. Because on my mother's side, my mother didn't have sisters or nor brothers, and my father had sisters and blah blah blah. It was a bigger side of the family, but I didn't have none of that on my mother's side, where who raised me, my mother. So why I'm saying all that is because it's a trip growing up, being the youngest, and then in the crowd because mentally and spiritually, not necessarily physically, I was ahead of my time always. Again, I will show you videos of just a few years ago where I was telling everybody what's happening right now. This is 2025, March 16th or something like that. I was telling people. But anyway, but I'm kind of going to the side because, now that I'm doing videos and I'm going to be promoting my Kung Fu, blah, 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 I am aware, I am very aware because this is what got me really out of teaching. And what got me out of teaching was the losure, the losing of my teethuses. You see, like I make a joke about it now, but it was a psychological. See, I don't think of these videos before I start them. If I thought about it, I would have had a picture here of me smiling in the Marine Corps with beautiful, not just teeth, but beautiful teeth. You understand? Now, why I'm saying that again is because now I'm doing videos. But when my teeth first started breaking off one at a time, you know, it was like a what the fuck, you know, because that was like, my smile was like, you know, I hate to smile. I kind of hate to smile, and I just can't help it because it's coming from here. That's what made it so infectious to people because it's coming from here, not from, hi, do you like to buy this from me or buy me or something like that. It was like that's what I do. I smile because I'm a happy guy. I'm still a happy guy, but I went through a period with the teeth. It's just the teeth. No, when I was younger, you can tell I wasn't never really like the strongest guy on earth, never. But I had to make my own way, and the teeth was like a example. So, number one, I've been poisoned most of my life. Well, no, let me reiterate, all of my life, all of my life. I've had periods where I've tried to eat better. I'm buying stuff, but if you buying other people's food and they putting what they want in, that's a type of poison. But let's go back to my beginnings where the poison was poison, straight up and down poison. Wow. And I want to get, this is personal. This is not got nothing. Well, it do got to do with what I'm teaching, actually, because this is my backstory. Because when I'm rich and famous, people don't want to know this stuff. And I might be dead already. Anyway, um, so when I was younger, and my mom had to move out of my grandmother's house and get her own stuff. But before we moved out of my grandmother's house, my grandmother was the one that cooked. She worked the job. She came home. She was the one that cooked, blah, 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 blah. So my mother took care of me and my brothers and sister. And I don't know, did my sister have my nephew yet? But anyway, we was all living in a railroad house in Harlem. So around that time, when I was about 5 years old, my grandmother, it was time for her to retire. She done worked on the railroad. This is almost just a little bit past of slavery. Ain't that much time just because so-called slavery was way back in the hundreds and stuff. And this is the 1960s. That don't mean it was much difference between slavery and what we had to do back in the 60s and 50s and 40s and all that type of stuff. So, anyways, my grandmother decided, I guess she decided, she said she retired. She good. She got a little pension because she worked on the railroad. That was a good job back in them days. You understand? So she retired and she ain't need all them rooms with us in it and my brother. I had two brothers and my sister, and I don't know, maybe she had my nephew who just passed away, my nephew Larry. You understand? So I don't know if he was no, born 1960. I think he was no, he was born later. So it's just my sister. So all us, my mother and my grandmother. So I guess my grandmother said, "Well, I'm about done with this stuff. Y'all got to take care of your motherfucking self." So my grandmother got a little this apartment to herself, and my mother went somewhere, and my brothers went back and forth to jail, and my sister, well, actually, she was mad. She was mad to Tootie, and I guess her and Tootie got together. I don't know, cause I was the youngest. I was about that big. So they all went out to their own ways, Grandma was grandma. Grandma was like, y'all got to take care of your goddamn self. I ain't doing it no more. You understand? That's how you're supposed to do shit. You pass, get the hell out type shit. Well, if he live in New York anyway. But so anyway, it just so happened that my father was, he was cool like that. So he took me and my brother in. He didn't take my older brother in because that wasn't his child. Me and my brother, one removed next to me, because my father had a brother that was next to me, and then the one that came with me from my mother. I got to explain all this type of stuff. My next older brother was the one with my mother that came with me. I'm Roy, he Ronald, and Raymond went somewhere else, like I said, the jail or something like that. So we went and lived with my father, and it just so happened that my grandmother got an apartment, just one. It wasn't even a bedroom, like a studio type of thingy, right across the street from where me and my brother was living. Again, when you get older, you start to realize, wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Personally, it was like the best good fortune at the time, because living with my father was cool, but we also had to live with his wife. My brothers, I had two other brothers by her, and but she didn't like us. No, I can almost, as an older person here, I can kind of imagine bringing children in the home with that you making, and these children by some other woman. All of a sudden, you got two more children in the goddamn house that you gotta cook and clean and all that type of shit. So I guess I wouldn't have liked me too much either. Whatever it was, you know, she wasn't like really like beating on us or anything like that, but just that energy. And then so anyways, and then her father was there. It was kind of crowded, and there was a bunch of rats. It was really like rats all over the goddamn. Anyways, so but I had an escape. My grandmother was right across, like literally, we was up here on this floor. I think we was on the top floor actually, but my grandmother was down here on the first floor. I mean, you had to walk up like one flight. Up here, we had to walk up like 5 flights up the stairs all the way. But we was little children, so we didn't really care. But anyway, my grandmother down here, and she's retired. So if by the time I finished school, I didn't have to go here with the rats and the grandfather and the mother that don't like me, and dad was at work, so it was no real reason to go. But oh God, I was fortunate back then. Dad had a television, a television repair shop right around the corner by the liquor store. Anyways, Grandma was right here, and Grandma was known for knocking brothers out. Brothers, you know what I want to say? I want to say Nick, but Grandma, Grandma was Grandma. She wasn't like 25-year-old Grandma. She was like my age now, Grandma. I will whip your ass, Grandma. Like for real, for real. So we go across the street. Me and my other brother James, said that's the one that my father had by the other mother. But me and him got like friends. We got close, like brother, like more than brothers. We was like friends. We was always hanging out. We right next to each other. Now I'm giving up. I'm thinking like so. Me and him go over there to see Grandma, and Grandma liked to look at wrestling. on TV. Back then, the TV this big, the goddamn cabinet this big. They say, why don't they make stuff like they used to? Because that shit was heavy. Believe me, my father had a TV shop, and I grew up in that. We picked up them TVs up five flights sometimes upstairs. The goddamn wooden cabinet was this big, like I can't even put it in the screen. I like bigger than that. But the TV was only this big, like the screen I'm not looking like I'm talking to now. It was like a big. Anyways, so we go to grandma's house, and guess who we used to look at on TV? People like, y'all don't know these words. Bobo Brazil. He was famous wrestlers like y'all look at wrestling. I don't know if y'all look at wrestling these days, but like we used to look at The Rock's father. We used to look at, and Grandma got into it. We all be on the bed because she had a little room. Remember, like a little room, not no big old room. She just had her room in the kitchen and the door getting out the house. It was a bathroom by the door, and that was it. That was it. Ain't no more of us all over the place. So anyway, so we all on the bed, me, James, and her, and Grandma getting into the wrestling like, ha, She like bouncing up and down on the bed, and we just sitting there like bouncing with her. And then after all the wrestling, we all, me and my brother James, Grandma be showing us a couple of things. Now, Grandma was from South, South. This is New York, North. But Grandma came from South. I got history. I be wondering why am I so fortunate? Because there's history behind me, and I knows I went and checked it out. I didn't just Grandma told us some stuff, and then years later I started checking out some things. Grandma got history. Back in the day, back in South Carolina, North Carolina, all that type of stuff, the Geechee Gula. Grandma was Geechee. But the Geechee Gula used to practice a thing called kicking and knocking. Very simple martial art. But Grandma kick you in the knee and knock you in the head. Grandma had a machete because my grandfather was from Cuba, whole nother style. So, but he showed her what they call Mandy and Cuba, how they won with the machetes over there. So Grandma had a machete by the door, and next to the machete, she had a baseball bat. Grandma wasn't no joke. She was known. I ain't lying. If I'm lying, I'm lying. My father was known because he was good with them hands too, boy. My father knocked your ass out. He knocked your ass out. Anyway, I done went into a whole bunch of other stuff that I wanted to get on video, my history and all that. So I'm saying I got history. And then let me jump forward like a whole bunch of years. I'm about 20 years old, I think. I went in the Marine Corps. I'm joining my country. Let me get this straight now. I'm joining my country. You understand? I'm not a patriot, but somebody told us this was our country, even though we was being beaten. 60s. Remember, I'm talking about the 60s now. Even though we were being beaten and shot, wasn't much difference than now. Except we was more out in the open, like, I'm just gonna shoot you, nigga. And, wait a minute, ain't much difference now. Anyways, I went in the Marine Corps. Look, skinny little me. Let's not forget, I'm going to talk about that too. I'm going to mention that a lot. I had an operation. My appendix said, and, they had to take all that stuff out. And it took it 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. I was 18 years old. It took till I was almost 20 years old before the thing closed up. And then there was a little piece still left open. So the Marine Corps called me and they said, okay, you can come in now. So I went down there and I was 116 pounds. You think I'm skinny now? You think I'm skinny now? I was so skinny, I can't even think of a joke to say how skinny I was. I was skinny. 116 pounds. When I always was 135. 135. I'm around 135 now. I'm thinking. But anyways, so I go. They check me out, and I got the little piece still open down there because I had to let it close. They didn't sew it up. The poison that came out of my appendix was all in my body, all in the poison, boy. Do you hear what I'm saying? Why? Where did it come from? We was on welfare. Once my mother came and got me from my father's house, we was on welfare. So to take care of us, my mother had to get on welfare. It's either work like the mothers do now, or take care of your child. So my mother decided to take care of my child. So again, back then she didn't know better. We didn't know better. Nobody knew better because if you ate health food, they called you a health freak. I'm letting that sink in for a minute. Think about media, and everybody that eat healthy is called a health freak. So anyways, you couldn't afford all that shit anyway. So what they gave us, and believe me, they do studies on all this garbage before they give us this garbage. It was like embarrassing when you a little child and you gotta go to the projects down the block with a push cart and to go get your food every month or whatever it was. I think it was every month. So what they gave us to eat was white flour, white bread, white sugar. The worst, the worst, the worst. If anything could be worse than white flour, white bread, white sugar. I don't know if they gave us white salt, but white salt was a part of our diet. White flour. The only things that had color, it was two things that had color. The butter, it was a little yellow, or it was yellow. And the only real food that they gave us, the peanut butter. You know, that peanut butter with the oil come up to the top, and then that we used to eat it by the spoon, and that was going like that, because it was my older brother, me, and my middle brother. Anyways, my sister was married by that time, so we eating all this stuff. But everybody else, actually, when I think about it, was kind of active, so they kind of kept all that garbage moving. I was the only one in the comic books, and I'm just sitting in the house all the time. I'm sitting in the house all the time. After school, I'm sitting in the house playing with my little cutout $1,000,000 comic books that I was just talking about. $1,000,000 cutout. I cut out $1,000,000 worth of comics. Anyway, so I was just into mind stuff. I'm sitting there all day long. So all this stuff we eating, all this white bread, white flour, white sugar, white salt, white, is building up. It's building up. It ain't going nowhere. I'm not moving. I'm not playing. Every once in a while, I was into my martial art, but after we left Grandma, because we moved to the Bronx. I forgot that part. We moved to the Bronx and left Grandma down there. So I didn't move as much when I got up there. We didn't go down and do the wrestling. Me and my brother used to wrestle and all that. So anyways, so I just got into me because it was only me. Me and my brother used to play a little bit, but he started getting into his own. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm realizing now that this gook cheese That's the other thing that had color. The yellow cheese. Yellow butter, yellow cheese, and brown peanut butter. The only real food. White bread, white flour, white sugar, white salt, blah, 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 blah. Ma tried to cook some greens, but they boil the greens until all the vitamins is in the water, and then they give you the greens. The greens is all like this, and ain't got no vitamins, and you eating a bunch of, now the only thing those are good for is probably to help move the gook from the white bread, white flour, white sugar, white salt. So, that was the first poisoning, how I grew up eating. Cause when we moved out, I was just about 5 or 6 years old when we moved from my father. I don't know if we were eating any better down there. I mean, I remember my stepmother, if you will, giving us farina. That was white. What the hell grow? You have you seen a white food yet that grow white? Everything got color, don't it? Anyways, so I grew up eating this stuff. Had operations too. One on my testicles, and the second one, which I don't know which one was worse, because the one on my testicles, I kind of woke up one day and moved my leg, and it was like somebody kicked me in the balls. It's like, no, it was like somebody kicked me in the balls. I'm like chilling one day. I was like 14. That was my first operation. I was like 14. I'm chilling. I wake up and I move my leg and it's like, bam! What the fuck? So my mama rushed me to the hospital and they cut my balls open and turned one of them around. Years later, when I tried to find out what the hell do you call this type of operation on your balls, and they told me some name that they make up, from Greek or some shit. But it means that my testicles turned inside, or one of them turned inside out. What the fuck? It turned inside out. That was really, really painful. I had tape from my stomach down to my legs, and for 2 weeks, I couldn't straighten my legs, because if you straighten your legs, you got to, the tape is going to be it's pulling on my skin, so I had to have my legs like this. I'm sitting up in the bed and shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was fun. That was real. I guess they had a tube going up in there. Now that I think about it, I didn't think about it before. Because that would be the second time I had a tube going up in there. So I had a tube so I can go to the bathroom and stuff like that. What was I doing? Well, anyways, that's the first operation, my testicles. I can't even show that one, but I can show the one, the appendix. My appendix had, and then so those two, I'm going on and on and on and on. Those two was the first poisoning. Now the second poisoning, I went and joined the Marine Corps, and then when I got in the Marine Corps, I was eating a little better, but not that much better, because they just want to blow you up. They wasn't thinking about nutrition. All they do, I get what you call that, hash browns in the morning, you get French fries in the afternoon, you get mashed potatoes in the evening, and then after a while you get like this. So I went in there at 116 pounds, and I come out, I'm 145 pounds, but it only took like a month or two before I'm back down to 135 pounds, because it's just blowed up weight. It ain't real weight. Like, instead of potatoes, we should have been eating like beans and stuff like that. Now, if I eating beans all them months, 3 months, We was the last Marines to train for 3 months, 12 weeks straight. After I got out, and they start training these little faggots for 8 weeks. Anyways, so I go in the Marine Corps, and then I get stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I'm starting to think about it a little more. I'm trying to eat a little better, we eating like we cooking our own food because, I was married and I had a house. I had a house on base housing. I mean, it was a real house, like you build a house. It had a kitchen, it had a living room, it had a bedroom, all that. I had 2 bedrooms because my wife, who never came down there, so I had the house to myself. So, anyways, come to find out years and years and years later, after my teeth, see, again, when I was coming up with my grandmother and my mother, we buy a chicken sometime. It was like a special fang chicken. Oh, we got meat, you understand? To go along with the white bread, white flour, white sugar, white salt. We put meat, we make, if we got a piece of meat, we make a meat sandwich. You know what kind of sandwiches? We used to take some white bread, Wonder bread. I wonder what the hell is in this bread. That's what I was wondering. You know what I'm saying? We take we didn't eat a lot. We ate silver cup. Silver cup. I don't know what kind of bread is called silver. But anyway, we put some butter on that mug, so at least it looked yellow, and then we would pour sugar on it and put it in the oven. Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. That was our meal. No, one time, or not one time, one of the other meals, we'd take the white bread and we'd dip it in Kool-Aid, like with the sugar and pink color, and I'm not, no, red color. I think I like the purple. We like purple water color with sugar, water, Kool-Aid, and we'd take the white bread and dip it in there and eat it like that. What's the other one? We used to take Aunt Jemima said, we pour it in the bowl and take the white bread and we dip it in that, and then we eat that. That's the diet. So, anyways, I'm in the Marine Corps. Let's get back to, well, it's not the present, but let's get back to the story. I'm in the Marine Corps, and I think I'm eating good because now I'm cooking on my own. I'm not even eating. Actually, I worked a lot in the kitchen. I like that job because you worked a lot. You got up really early, worked a lot, but you have a weekend off, and you have a weekend off. Weekend off, weekend on. So, anyways, I like that job. Plus, you eat really fast. You cook all day from early in the morning to late at night, and then you don't fuck with these white people. Excuse me. These Caucasians, they was devils. I ain't even gonna go into that. They was devils. They kill people. And love it. So, anyways, this is the Marine Corps. Get it in your hair. So, anyways, I'm cooking and stuff. But come to find out, after I bite on a chicken bone and my teeth start breaking off, hey, wait a minute, when I was younger, because I'm only 20-something year old, so why is my teeth breaking off when I bite on a chicken bone? Actually, the first tooth broke when me and Seafood Hill, I won't say his whole name. You know who you're talking about. Boy, you know who you are, Seafood. My friend, my best friend, we practicing, and he knocked my first tooth out. It was like an omen. He knocked the tooth out. And then after that, I bite on a chicken bone and another tooth. And then I bite on a softer thing and the tooth just break. Now understand what I'm saying here, boy. The teeth didn't get rotten. The teeth didn't get rotten. I bite on something, or Cecil Hill punch me in the mouth or something with his barbed wire. Y'all know who I'm talking about. And then the tooth just break the fuck off. So I'll be like, what the fuck is going on here? So I goes down to the dentist, boy. You understand? I did go to the dentist, because niggas be like, excuse me, YouTube, Facebook, all y'all motherfuckers. I ain't mean to say the N-Y. I go to the dentist because my people, they don't ask. They just, boy, why don't you go to the dentist? So, okay, so I went to the dentist, boy. And the dentist said, I don't know how he knew. I think of my insurance, whatever it was. It must have said Marine Corps. So he ain't do all that. I do all that myself. You know, that's the old people's thing. When you ain't got no teeth, you be like. But luckily, like I said, they just broke off, so the teeth is still in the gum. But anyway, so I go to the dentist, and he said, "Oh, you was at Camp Lejeune?" Looking at me all crazy and shit. I'm like, boy, why you looking at me like that, boy? I said, yeah, I was at Camp Lejeune. He said, boy, they was poisoning the water. Poisoning the water? I'm a Marine, boy, don't you know? I was in the best of the best. I was the top. I was damn near the top shooter in the top. What were we when we was in boot camp, it was a bunch of us put together and we call it a platoon or some shit like that. So I was a 1032, one of the top 10. Then, is a one at the beginning, so you got to be like the top platoon. And I was like one of the top shooters. I shot expert, boy. I'm a Marine. They don't poison their own people. Why would they poison their own Marines? Why would they poison their own Marines? So, the dentist started to tell me about them putting benzene in the water. See, they make nuclear, whatever the fuck they doing with the fucking chemicals in the fucking Camp Lejeune down there, but they pouring the waste and shit in the water. The water just, in them days, we ain't had no fucking goddamn fucking bottles of drinking water. It was no such thing for us. I don't know about them rich motherfuckers. They might have had Perrier. Oh, no, that's Spaceballs. They might have had Perry water back then or whatever the fuck. But for us, lower level black people, we didn't have no goddamn water in the store. We drank water from the faucet. We bathed in the water from the faucet. We cooked with the water from the faucet. So, the dentist, the doctor who fixes teeth, told me that they poisoned us with, the biggest one was the benzene, which makes the bones, because if your teeth are brittle, it means your bones are probably the same. So the dentist, tooth doctor told me about this benzene and other chemicals that the Marine Corps was putting in the water and poisoning everybody that lived in the town, not just their own people, but if you lived in Jacksonville, um, I was getting ready to say Florida. If you lived in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I don't even know if they cleaned up till this day. If you live there and drinking the water, you are being poisoned to death. Do you part? So, I am 68 years old, and a lot of the problems I have been able to slow down. I have not been able. Well, I don't work out like that. Like just sit around all day humming, 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 humming. If I work out like that, like a Bruce Lee type workout with the Dow, I would probably rid myself of all the effects of the poisoning from the Marine Corps. Marine Corps, ooh-rah! Because after the dentist told me that, I went home and I looked on. Did we have internet then? I guess we had internet. So I looked on TV, whatever the fuck was existing. I looked on the internet, whatever, and checked into it and found out most people were getting cancer and dying. It is like how they treated the firemen and policemen after they sucked in all the cancer causing agents, which is fiberglass sticking in your lungs, the asbestos, after they did the 9/11 in New York City, which I just happen to not be in New York City. For some reason, I always just happen to not be around when crazy, stupid shit be happening. So anyway, so they treat their firemen, they treat their police, and then us, their Marines, like a piece of shit when they poison us. When they poison us. When they poison us. Because twice I have done the paperwork to get compensation for being poisoned, for me going into the service, being a, what you call that, patriotic type person. Oh, I'm going into the Marine Corps because, well, I went in the Marine Corps because they had the best suit, the best uniforms, it's tailor made and all that good shit. I should have went in the Air Force because I was smart enough, or at least the Navy. I'm not even gonna go there. So I'm trying to be like, yes, Black American Marine guy, kind of guy. And they poisoned me. Not only me, thousands and stuff. You know, just recently, the second time that I put in paperwork to get compensated for being poisoned to death because it hasn't left me. I'll talk about that in a second. The second time is last year. Like you look at you look at TV and you see these commercials. Oh, have you been eating foods grown by Monsanto, weed killer? Then you can, sue them for 10 billions and trillions of dollars. You better get in now because this lawsuit is only going to last this long, and Because if you are poisoned and we check your DNA, blah, 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 you can get money from Monsanto. This is real. Monsanto is the devil. Monsanto is the devil. Monsanto is the devil. We're not going to get into that right now. So it was the same thing. It was like, well, you at Camp Lejeune? Yes. Well, you poison? Yes. Well, you can apply for compensation now. Oh, you mean, only 40 years, only 40 years. I'm probably one of the last survivors of the poisoning 40 years later of the Marine Corps at Camp Lejeune and probably a bunch of other camps around the whole nation. Around the whole nation. Because, like I said, I checked it out and I'm seeing people who died already 20 years ago of cancer, directly connected to drinking the water at Camp Lejeune. I am not joking. Check it out. So, why am I still here? I I don't really believe anymore. I know it is because the same reason that I'm telling you just don't sit around and smoke the herb and be like, oh man, I'm high. I am still here because I did Tai Chi. I studied Tai Chi, I practiced Tai Chi, and then I taught Tai Chi. And then from Tai Chi, now I have developed my own system of Kung Fu. And the other half of that, all these years, except for the 1 year that I served in Okinawa, we didn't fuck with the herb over there because you go to jail in Okinawa just smoking a joint. If you caught with a seed, like literally, if you caught with a seed in the Marine Corps and in Okinawa, you done. It's probably still people in jail when I was over there in 80 for real, for real. So anyway, Um, so I'm smoking, but I don't know what I know now. But I'm also doing Tai Chi, breathing, and blah blah blah. And I met a girl out here, so she started teaching me about eating a little better, blah blah blah. So I'm doing things. I'm not just sitting around smoking with the smoke is building up in my lungs and whatever toxicity there is in the herb. I'm not letting it sit. I'm always moving. I have a nervous energy. That's why I'm skinny. I have nervous energy. So I'm always moving. I'm always thinking. I'm always moving. And even to this day, it's really, 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 really hard to just sit still and be like, because even now my mind is like, my mind, in my head, my brain is like, but I'm in my body, I have to force myself to be like, so I guess there's a kind of balance. So I'm still here because I practice something that's focusing my spirit and keeping my body alive, blah, blah, blah. I'm not just sitting there getting fat, getting old, and dying. Diet, dying. So I'm looking at people buying cats. What I want, the last thing I wanted to say is that it wasn't just my teeth. You understand? I used to, my joints here. It's just a little bit now, but I do my exercise and stuff, and the joint, especially here, would like swell up. and my knees would like, I'm doing my kung fu and stuff, and if I stop for a little while and then start doing my exercise again, my knees swell up and it gets full of water. Excuse me. You understand? And this my the this that I don't know what you call it. Figure it out. That vertebrae where my right at the base of where my neck is moving used to be so tight. I couldn't do this. I couldn't even lift. I couldn't even turn my head back and do a full circle. But after years of Tai Chi, all these things have lessened where I don't feel pain doing that anymore. And I used to have to massage this. I'm not working out like I used to, but I don't have the same problems that I have. The teeth fell out, like I said, I might bite on a chicken bone and the tooth break off, but the teeth are still in the gums. Otherwise, if the teeth came out, if they got all rotten and fell out, my mouth would be look like this. Like I'll be joking. My mouth. If the teeth wasn't in the gum and the gum shrank because the teeth weren't in the gum, my mouth would be like this. I'll be talking like this. And if you want to do kung fu, but the teeth are still mostly in the gum. Only a few like came out or were pulled out, whatever. But I still have most of my teeth, so I can still kind of chew, stuff, which I really don't need to be doing anyway. At my age, I should be start drinking. I can literally just live off of drinking smoothies and eating soft foods, so it moves through my old ass system, so, and I start to refine, because the idea of the Tao, especially as you get older, but, but if you find a teacher that can teach you how to do this stuff, the idea is to refine your physical body, your mental body, and your spiritual body, to refine them to and get them to where they're all vibrating at the same rate. And we, or science, call this resonation. Because, say, my teeth, for instance, or bone vibrates at its level. It's hard, so it vibrates at a low level. But say blood, which is liquid, vibrates at a higher level. And then different parts of yourself, depending on how dense or how not dense that they are, vibrates on different levels. Now the idea resonance is all vibrations are vibrating at the same rate. Now, when they resonate, they rise to higher and higher levels. Now, what happens is when you have poison in your body from the Marine Corps and you're doing these practices, you start to vibrate imagine if I never was poisoned and I smoked my herb and then figured this stuff out, about the herb and the vibration and all that. Black Panther stuff. This is Black Panther stuff. For real, for real, for real. Black Panther stuff. We're going to get into the melanin and all that stuff. But if you raise your vibration and get it to resonate and all that stuff, and you're not poisoned to death, because I spent so much time just fighting the poison in my body. Now I'm 68, and it's like, well, I done missed my youth because the Marine Corps poisoned me. The Marine Corps poisoned me. The Marine Corps poisoned me. And my family and children be like, well, why don't you? Well, why don't you? Well, let me think. Why don't I? Let me think. I'm dying. They killing me with poison, benzene. Drink benzene. Drink some benzene right now, right now. No, no. I'm I'm sorry, Facebook. I'm sorry, YouTube. I am sorry. Don't drink benzene. Don't drink benzene. That was a metaphor. I don't know what the word is. Don't drink benzene. Because you know there's some stupid motherfucker that will go get a bottle of benzene and drink that because they said, well, Roy told me, no, I didn't tell you to drink benzene. I didn't tell you to drink benzene. So, the point here of all this hour of talking is that if you just do some basic practices, the basic of the basic practices is to learn how to breathe properly. Breathe in and feel your lower abdomen. You know, when you feel your abdomen, not your chest. You look in the mirror, look in the mirror, and look in the mirror. Let me say it 3 times. You know, when you look in the mirror and you breathe, I say breathe deep, and then you say, and your chest be like, you know, if you got breasts, this is like a woman with nice. Oh, well, anyway, um, that's another story. You know, when you breathe in and your chest be like blowing up, that's not deep breathing. This is shallow breathing. And down here, let me show you right quick. Down here in the abdomen area, like when your stomach. If you look at a baby before they're 7 years old, they breathe down in the down in the abdomen. Now you see, did you see me hit myself with my little bony hand? I hit myself in the abdomen, boy. This is the stomach right here. Your stomach, boy. This is your rib. This is your stomach. I'm hitting myself in the stomach, boy. You know what that come from? That come from breathing. Learn how to breathe in the nose, and then you breathe long, and you breathe soft, and you breathe quiet, and you breathe and down deep is where all the shit, you know, all that shit that you've been eating all summer, last year, all that shit is in here, and sometimes it stay in your stomach. It don't all come out, you know. It don't come out because you don't know how to breathe. Now, when you breathe, all this shit get bigger down there. It get like bigger, and then it push that shit out. You know, when you breathe correctly, it push that shit out. Now there's the opposite too, because like out here in LA, the air is like, you know, you're breathing in big ass shit like this, and big ass, what they call that, poisoning in the air. So you breathe that shit in, and if you don't breathe it all out, it's gonna stay at the bottom of your lung. It's gonna them big ass particles. You know, a particle of dust, but a bunch of them, a bunch of particles that you're breathing in, boy. The hair don't stop all that shit, and that shit go down into the bottom of your lungs, and it's heavy, boy, because it's not just air, it's pores, and so it's sitting the bottom of your lung, and you don't breathe it out. So it's going to sit in the bottom of your lung, and then it's going to go all through your lung, and then it's just going to sit. It's going to be sitting in your lung like this, you know. And then after a while, you get something called, I don't know what they call it. They got a name for it. I know that shit. I know they got some name for it. I can't pronounce it, but they got a name for it because a bunch of shit in your lung, and you can't breathe no more. You be like emphysema or some shit like that. Yeah, probably emphysema. You be like, and boy, somebody like me come along, boy, I teach you how to breathe, and you be like, I know how to breathe, boy. I'll be like, okay, keep on breathing. I'm out, because I ain't teaching no ignorant nigga. Excuse me, Facebook. Excuse me, YouTube. I ain't mean to say nigga. I ain't teaching no ignorant nigga that don't want to learn. I ain't gonna force you to take care of yourself. So that's the basis of everything I'm about to teach. Breathing, boy. It's a long ass video. Breathing, boy. Learn how to breathe first, and then we can talk about other stuff. I'm out. Peace. How you turn this motherfucker off? God damn it.